First, though, let's hear from Rich Tindale. Last year, Formula One fan Rich from Stafford was one of a team of people who rode to the Spa racing circuit in Belgium from Silverstone in 4 days. But 6 years ago, he thought life was all over. He explained why.
It actually started a couple of years prior to that. I started getting floaters in my right eye. Now, people get floaters and it's just usually like a little line or a squiggle, but this was almost like a large jellyfish. Really, really off-putting, quite dangerous when I was driving. So I actually went to Specsavers, and they sent me to the Wolverhampton Eye Infirmary, where I was having all sorts of tests. They were looking in my eyes, and I was going there every 3 months, but they had no idea what it is. They could see debris in my eye from something, but they didn't know what it was. And I was going there for probably about 2 years. Then one morning, it was on a Sunday, I was actually watching Formula One. My feet started feeling numb. I could still move them, I could still feel when I touched them, but they just felt really strange. And then throughout the day, the numbness kind of went from my feet, and then it was at my knees, and then it was at my waist. Then I didn't really think anything of it, and went to work on the Monday, and my boss said maybe I should go and get it checked out. So I went off to the doctors, at which point they thought that it could be something quite serious called locked-in syndrome, which was moving its way up my body, and if it had got to my diaphragm, it could have potentially stopped me breathing. So they kept me in hospital for 3 days, discovered that it wasn't that. I started getting the feeling back in my legs, no problem. From there, they sent me for some MRI scans in Cannock, which I did, not even thinking that it could be MS or anything like that. And then got a letter to attend an appointment at Stafford Hospital, which was on the 30th of April 2007, which was when I'd put that status on Facebook. It was 6 years ago to the day, and went in there, and he explained that he'd reviewed the MRI scans, and he was 99% certain that I actually had multiple sclerosis, at which point my world kind of fell apart. I just remember, because I hadn't had it, and no one came with me to the hospital, and I just remember walking out of there thinking that this is it. I thought life was over. But little did I know it was the start of great things, ironically.
Just try and describe that sense, presumably, of rising panic as your body is starting to do things that you just can't comprehend.
Yeah, it's weird. Multiple sclerosis affects your nerves, and your nerves control everything you do. It was panic, but it was because I wasn't in pain, and I could still, when my legs were numb, I could still walk. It was just the unknown. It was, I didn't know what it was. And then even after the diagnosis, I still didn't know what multiple sclerosis was. It was quite horrifying, but from that point on, I've obviously learnt a lot about it.
Prior to you getting these floaters, as you describe, in your eyes, what was life like for you?
Pretty good, pretty active, enjoyed all sorts of things, socialising, playing football, mountain biking, playing on the Xbox, playing guitar, just doing the usual lad things, really.
And you get the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. You're on your own at the time, and you don't know anything about it. So what do you do at that point?
Well, the first thing I did was walk out of the hospital, it was just all kind of a bit of a blur. And I rang my best mate and told him. He was actually working away at the time, so spoke to him very, very briefly. And then rang another best mate and decided to go to the pub and talk about what had happened.
So quite a few drinks consumed.
Not too many, to be fair. It was, I'd say, my head was in a bit of a state then. It was just kind of just thinking what was in store, really, and doing a bit of research into what MS actually was and how it affects people.
And how did it affect you initially? Did it have a toll on your mental health?
It did, in the respect of the shock of being told it. You don't know how it's going to affect life, basically, and how it's going to affect your life expectancy and all sorts of things, and all the plans and the visions you have for your future. It's sort of blows them out of the water a little bit, because I say it's unknown. You don't know what it is, and what it's going to do to you.
So how do you reach the point where you are accepting of the condition and you try and turn it into a positive?
At the end of the day, it's a lifelong disease. There is no cure currently, so you've just got to get on with it. I know people who are in much worse positions through different ailments and whatever. So in a way, I kind of now look at myself as quite lucky to have the course of the disease as how it's gone, really.
It's Rich Tindale from Stafford on BBC Radio Stoke. On the way, how he coped with the time he started to go blind, especially as he works as a graphic designer. And also how he's planning a big challenge next year to prove that MS can't get the better of him. But decided to tackle it head on. And I asked how life is day to day.
I had a relapse about 2 years ago, which I started going blind, which was a bit of a scary one, a bit weird. That lasted for probably about a month. My vision has come back, but because where it actually affected the nerves in my brain, it has left a scar. It's almost like it gets a cold sore on it and then it heals, but it just leaves a little bit of scarring on it, which actually squeezes the nerve. So my vision came back, but not 100%, and that is just off my central line of vision. So that's there all the time. I can't forget about that. I also have to medicate once a week. I self-inject a drug called Avonex beta interferon, which is every Thursday. So that's another little reminder that it's there. But to be honest, in day-to-day life, I just try and ignore it. It's easy to attribute every little ailment or anything which you think is going wrong with you to multiple sclerosis, but you also have to realise that you're still open to all sorts of other illnesses and whatever as well. So,
because you were almost quite casual in the way you said there, there was the time 2 years ago when I started to go blind, and that, just hearing that sends shivers down my spine. This is just, you become accepting of what can happen.
You do. But as I say, from being at the MS clinic and meeting lots of people with MS, it was horrible at the time because the course of my disease at the moment is relapsing and remitting, so I get bad and then I get better. I was confident and holding out the hope that my vision would come back, and that wouldn't stop me doing anything in the future. And thankfully, after, I say, probably about 4 weeks, it did come back. I went back into remission. And it's left a small scar, but it's nothing compared to what it was. But again, I know and have seen people who are completely blind through it. So again, I look at myself as very lucky.
Because your day job is as a designer?
Graphic designer, yeah, for Francesco Group.
Does it have any knock-on to that work?
It did when I actually, during that month where I'd lost basically the peripheral vision in the right-hand side of my vision, it made things a bit slower. If I had to read a word, I had to read each letter because you don't really realise how much you take in when you just glance at things. So that it affected me in that way. Things like reading subtitles, I just couldn't read them because I couldn't read it quick enough. But I persevered and still got all the work I needed to get done.
And last year you took on a fairly extreme challenge, really, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah. We had it started off. After I'd been diagnosed. I don't know if it was a shock tactic or I don't know. Me and a best friend rode from London to Paris, supporting the MS Trust, which was probably about a year after I'd been diagnosed. It was amazing. It was a really good time. We raised £5,000 for the MS Trust, and then that kind of got me thinking about what we could do ourselves. From there, my dad had been saving money in an account. Well, my mum and dad, my parents, had been saving money in an account for when I wanted to maybe do another event or get something organised. And then I was all right. I hadn't had a relapse for 2.5 years. So I'd kind of put it to the back of my mind. And then when this blindness started coming on, it brought it all back. And I said, right, I've just been sitting here not thinking about it. But now this is happening. When I get my vision back, that is the time to sort it out. So that was when Ride2spa was conceived, and that's when the plan was formed.
And I suppose when you look back now, the time when MS first arrived, certainly you felt the physical effects, was when you were watching Formula 1.
Yeah, ironically, yeah. Yeah, very true.
So ride2spa was really successful. So 400 miles in 4 days.
Yeah, it was actually 417 miles altogether. Don't forget the 17.
Well, it's crucial when you're riding that far, isn't it?
Yeah, it was an absolutely immense event. It was amazing for lots of different reasons, but it's something I say that I'll never forget, and it's going to be hard to be beaten, really. But
so the plan is then that next year you take it one step beyond on a Formula One theme.
yes, we kind of the amount of coverage we got from the whole thing, really, from the tweets and the things before we went, and then we were at the track. We actually we had about £400 in sponsorship just from people seeing us at the track and just donating money to us. We also got quite a lot of donations afterwards from people who'd said, "Oh, we'll sponsor you when we get back home," and whatever. So it was just immense, and we thought, right, what can we do next? We've got to go bigger and we've got to go better.
So how much effort will you have to put in order to achieve? Because this is a hell of a distance, isn't it?
It is. It's roughly about 900 miles. So it's over twice as far as it was to Spa, but we have the added challenge of getting over the Alps on probably about day 7 or day 8 of the challenge. We will be traversing the Alps from north to south to get to Monza.
So living in Stafford, where are you going to put in the legwork in order to achieve this?
I'll probably cycle down Western Bank and then cycle back up again and then roll back down and keep doing that a few times. We've got some big climbs, but if you do the right amount of training, anything is possible.
What's the target in terms of money raised and who for?
To be honest, we haven't discussed that yet. The target for ride2spa was originally £10,000. We actually blew that out of the water with raising £23,000. So I don't know. It depends how many people we get involved, and it'd be nice to raise more money, more than we did for ride2spa, seeing as it is a bit more of a challenge. So.
Do you see things like this, Rich, as really 2 fingers up to MS?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, totally. It's me proving to myself that although I've had MS for 6 years, probably a lot longer before that, that it's not stopping me doing dreams I had.
What's after Monza, do you think? I know we're looking ahead already, but have you got bigger plans than Monza?
I don't know. I really don't know. It'll be the constraints of getting time off work and how many people would want to join me. But the beauty of what we are doing, which is riding to Formula One tracks and Formula One weekends, is that there's quite a few dotted over Europe, and we could incrementally just go further and further until who knows where we could end up riding to.
Rich Tindale from Stafford, who's planning to cycle 900 miles there or thereabouts to Monza next year to prove MS won't get the better of him. It's BBC Radio Stoke. Later